What you got going for Georgia, Rustin?
I have them going 12-0 and winning the national championship.
Yeah, I've got them going 12-0 as well. I mean, we talked about this a few weeks ago. At quarterback, they're 3 deep at quarterback without really losing much talent or any stride at all in any of them that they put out there.
Yep.
I mean, like it's really not fair what they have in the quarterback room right now. How in the world they're keeping all 3 of those guys there, I don't know. But obviously this year it's pretty much settled who's going to be starting. But next year they could have a very big time quarterback battle in their hands for sure. But they are totally loaded, and so I 100% agree they go 12-0. We'll see what happens in the playoff. Who knows what can happen in a playoff? Crazy things can happen there. So we'll see what happens there. But I do have them finishing the regular season 12-0.
Just a quick comment on Georgia. They are so incredibly deep that's what makes them scary good. Is it doesn't matter what position you look at on the field, there's really good depth everywhere. And probably the greatest example of that is Branson Robinson had a really good year last year at running back until he got injured. The year before, he had a very good year. He's third string. As a freshman, he played in 12 games, had 68 carries for 341 yards as a true freshman. Going into his sophomore year before he got injured, they were like, he's going to be top 2. He's third string. Like, Branson Robinson might be one of the top 10 running backs in the entire SEC, and he's their third guy. It's ridiculous how much depth they have, and all the way across the board. Like you said, quarterback. I mean, their third string quarterback is Jaden Rashada. If he had ended up at Florida, he'd be starting right now. So
this would be his second year starting at Florida.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, the depth all across that roster.
And when you look at their schedule, I mean, they have an incredibly difficult schedule.
Yeah,
but it doesn't matter. Like that's the thing. Like they open the season a neutral site game against Clemson. Tennessee Tech, Kentucky, they're going to handle business there. Then they go to Alabama. That will not be an easy game. It'll be an incredible game. Then they host Auburn immediately after that. That'll be another good game. Then they're going to pound Mississippi State. Then they go to Texas. They have to go to Alabama and to Texas within 4 weeks of each other. If they were going to lose one, it'd be one of those 2.
I'm just sitting here looking at their depth chart. 6 of their 11 starters on defense will probably get drafted in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft this year.
Then they've got back-to-back really difficult games in November. They got to go to Ole Miss, and then they host Tennessee. I mean, they've got they got 1, 2, really 6 games, and just 7 if you include Florida, that are really tough games. I mean, like, most teams would not make it through that unscathed, but they're so good that they probably will, which is crazy. I love Caleb's confidence here. Caleb said, "I see Georgia going 1-11. I mean 11-1." He said, "I think Nico can pull it off." I love it, buddy. I love it. I hope so. I don't think
it, but in the trenches, I'm not so sure about that.
Especially at Georgia, that makes it even tougher. Carl said Georgia has always been loaded since Kirby's been there, loaded to the Raptors, and rarely loses players. Yep. Evan said 12-team playoff makes things harder for Kirby, but Kirby's going to run the table for the next 10 years. He said he is Nick Saban 2.0. I think that's actually probably a pretty good analogy. Sam said Georgia's not going 12-0. Go ahead.
This defense is going to remind a lot of people of those amazing Alabama defenses that were just suffocating and nobody could score on. This defense is going to remind a lot of people of that.
So Sam said Georgia's not going 12-0 that stretch there. So I'm gonna amend his comment there. He said Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi State, and Texas run will tell the tale. I'm gonna extend that out. I'm gonna say Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi State, Texas, Florida, Georgia, or excuse me, Ole Miss, Tennessee. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games in a row where Mississippi State is actually the weakest opponent in those 7 games. So they got 6 games straight there that are going to be really, really difficult games. If they go through that stretch undefeated, they deserve to win the national championship. Like, just give it to them at that point, because that's incredible. Sam said, feed them that rat poison, Rustin. I love it. Caleb said, well, look back when Dobbs did it with a terrible coaching staff. That's what Nico reminds me of. It was also not quite as good of a Georgia team. And Tennessee's roster was also really good back then. I mean, you had Alvin Kamara. You had Jawan Jennings, Josh Malone. I mean, like they're pretty good too. I agree this roster is better than that one. I agree with that. I hope they beat him. It'd be wonderful.